For the last 6 months, I have been scheduling every minute of my life. I know what you might be thinking. Isn't that insane? And you know what? Maybe it is, but I found that it's made me happier, more productive, and it's allowed me to make more progress on my goals than I've ever been able to do before. I'm Emil, I'm a second year medical student from Australia, and in this video, I'll tell you why I started scheduling in the first place, how it's benefited me, and how you can apply it to your own life so that hopefully you can see the benefits that I have. I know what people usually say about scheduling so much. Doesn't it take the fun out of everything that you do? Doesn't mean that you're so stressed and under time pressure all the time? Does that mean that you can never say yes to any spontaneous commitment? Well, the answer to all of these questions is actually no. What I've learned in the last 6 months is that scheduling properly isn't about having a strict, rigid timetable that you have to stick to every day. It's about being more intentional with your time and prioritizing those things that are important to us. The problem that I faced was that I had these tasks that were important but not urgent being constantly put off for another day where I had more time to do them. These were things like practicing violin, getting exercise, organizing my filing system on my computer, and all of these things that I knew would be good for me, but I didn't necessarily have the urgency to make time for them on a day-to-day basis. Every day, I felt as though I was working just on the fly without a plan for what I wanted to do or how I wanted to spend my time. And sometimes at the end of the day, I would just finish the day feeling as though I had no idea what I had achieved. Even things like assignments and tests that I needed to complete or revise for a future date would sometimes never get done until the day before or 2 days before, when I suddenly realized that I had to do it, otherwise I would fail. I think these are really common problems that occur to anyone, not just students, but fundamentally, I think that it stems from an inability to prioritize our time. Scheduling is what fixes these problems, and that's exactly why it's helped me so much. Fundamentally, just having a schedule for what I want to achieve each day means that I approach the day with far more intention than I usually would have. Just thinking about what I want to do the night before or the Sunday before a week starts means that I'm also thinking about how I want to spend my time and what things are most important to me at any given point in time. Every Sunday for the last 6 months, I've basically been looking at my to-do list and planning the entire week ahead. Especially for things like the YouTube channel or studying for medical school, I'll know that I need these big blocks of time to do deep work or to film a video, for example. I'll have my schedule for university and I'll just start by allocating these big blocks of time. For example, filming for 3 hours on a Wednesday or on a Thursday where I actually have time to do those things. I feel like this is where a lot of people just underestimate the absolute power of scheduling, because just the very fact that I have those things in my calendar means that there are a lot of implications for the other work that I need to get done earlier in the week. For example, if I schedule in a block of filming on Wednesday, that means that I have to get some scripting done for the video on Tuesday or before. If I have certain work for an assignment that I need to do on Thursday, it means that I have to do some work before that I need to reach the prerequisite level to get to that level on Thursday. Just this simple step of putting one or two things into my calendar means that I have a whole slew of other things that I'm more likely to do and more likely to intentionally make the time to do earlier in the week. On top of the work that I have to do for uni or for the YouTube channel, I put those tasks that are important but not necessarily urgent into my calendar as well. For example, for the last 30 days, I've been scheduling in the same time to wake up and the same time to do some meditation every morning. Another example for things like exercise and practicing violin, I know that after I get home from university, I'm usually really tired. And then I also thought to myself, I know that exercising actually energizes me. So what I did was I always schedule a run after I come home from class to make sure that I get an energy boost before I do any sort of studying. Just the very fact that I was scheduling at all is what allowed me to make these connections in my head and actually intentionally think about what might be the best way for me to spend my time. It's helped me reduce so much stress as well, because when I have those large tasks like filming 2 videos or getting 2 videos done for the channel, I can split it up into smaller blocks that I can then fit into my calendar and break up into manageable sections. For example, if I have an assignment that I need to do and I know it'll take around 4 hours of work, I can just split that into 4 1-hour blocks, and then all I have to do is put those 1-hour blocks on each day, and all of a sudden my assignment is done and it doesn't seem like that massive stressful task that it was before. In this way, scheduling has meant that I've made so much more progress on my long-term goals. It's meant that I've led a more balanced lifestyle, and it's meant that I'm just overall so much less stressed when I have a big task to do. So how can you actually schedule properly? The most important thing that I found for a schedule was just using an online calendar like Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, or anything else that's a suitable alternative. Online calendars are much better than physical ones for a few reasons. Firstly, just because it's really easy to switch tasks. You don't have to cross anything out or rub anything out. You can just drag your time blocks. And it's also really easy to get a nice big picture overview of what your week or your month might look like. I also really like online calendars because on Google Calendar, for example, you can set different colors for different calendars. So for example, I have YouTube blocks in orange, uni blocks in red, and I can really easily visualize how much work I might be doing for a certain aspect of my life on a given day. The other thing to make sure that you're able to hit your schedules properly is to use a to-do list on top of your calendar. Using a to-do list gives you the things and the inspiration for what you actually want to put onto your calendar. And what I like to do with my to-do list is whenever I write down a task, I also just write down how long I think the task would take, and I tend to overestimate this by around 25%. What this allows me to do is if I have a certain set of tasks that I know I need to complete in a week, I'll already have an idea of how long they'll take, and this will also be overestimated by 25%, so that if in case I procrastinate a bit or I don't complete my work, I'm still not likely to run super behind on my schedule. Now, one of the most important things for actually making your schedule work is to always schedule the night before or the entire week before. I'll have a ritual where on a Sunday night, I'll basically plan out just my general schedule that I'll have for the next week coming up. So if I have any big blocks that I know I need to do, like filming for example, or getting some really deep work done for university, I'll make sure to schedule in those times when at the very start of the week on a Sunday. Then when the night ends on every day, I'll actually just make a more specific schedule for the next day so that I know step by step exactly what things I want to do during the day to actually make sure that I get all of the stuff I need done. Alongside your to-do list and overestimating the time you think tasks will take by around 25%, also make sure you put a 10 to 15 minute buffer period before and in between your blocks in a schedule. What I've found is that the last thing you want to do with your schedule is to fall behind. And if anything, it's much better to be ahead of your schedule and to add tasks rather than to be behind on your schedule and then have to move tasks to the next day because you were overzealous with what you thought you could get done. With this as well, when you're putting tasks into your schedule itself, make it really specific. Don't just tell yourself that you're going to study biology, for example. In your to-do list itself, write exactly the tasks that you need to complete so that when you put it into your to-do list, you know step by step, you're not just going to study biology, you're going to do some Anki flashcards for the first 30 minutes, and then you're going to watch your teacher's notes or your lecture on biology for the next hour. Doing this means that you won't arrive for studying biology and then suddenly realize that you actually have no idea what you need to do, and then spend 15 minutes trying to figure out what you want to do, be less motivated and less likely to follow through with what you want on your schedule. The next thing that I found helped me a lot to make sure I fit my schedule and my schedule work properly was to make sure that I put every single thing in my schedule. Something that used to really often happen to me is that I'll talk to my friend about doing something on a Friday night, for example, and they would say, yeah, maybe they're down. And then on the Friday, they would tell me, yeah, we agreed to do that thing. And I might have booked something else in on Friday night in the meantime when I didn't really know whether we were going to have that thing or not. As a result, it's really important from just an organizational perspective in your life to always put everything down into your schedule, even if it's just a tentative event or something that might happen. I also take schedule in everything very literally to mean make sure you schedule in time for breakfast, lunch, and dinner as well. Because what I find personally is that if I'm eating breakfast on my own, it's really easy for me to go on my phone and then spend 45 minutes eating breakfast when I could have just eaten my breakfast in 10 minutes. Having those times written out, for me at least, means that I'm a lot less likely to just scroll on my phone while eating and then just lose track of time and spend an absurd amount of time eating my meal. This also means scheduling in time for relaxation. So if you know that you're going to study for a certain amount of time, also make sure that you put in time in your schedule to actually have a break and do something that you want to do instead. My final tip for using a schedule is if you know that something is going to come up, say you don't know what time dinner is going to be, or if something comes up while you're out with friends and you know that it's going to take more time, don't be afraid to change your schedule. Really, for me, a schedule is more an intention setting exercise. It doesn't necessarily mean that I absolutely have to follow through on my schedule or my life is screwed. Sometimes I will know what things are more important. And for example, sometimes going out with my friends is going to be more important than just studying another 2 hours for university. And when I make those decisions, I honestly feel a lot more happy with the decisions that I make. If, for example, you don't know when dinner is going to be, make sure you just schedule in an hour for dinner if you know dinner's going to take an hour. And then whenever dinner comes, you can just schedule that hour in and reschedule your afternoon or evening so that you can still fit in everything that you need to do. Also, I always design my schedules so that I'm intentionally trying to run ahead of schedule. And if you're running ahead of schedule, it's honestly one of the best feelings in the world because you feel so productive and you feel like you've gotten so much done. And it really is just such a good feeling. And when you do that, don't be afraid to just change your blocks a little bit and feel free to add some more tasks in. But when I do that, I just always try to remember that any additional tasks that I add are just a bonus, and it doesn't necessarily mean if I don't complete those that I've failed the day. Scheduling has genuinely transformed the way I do so many things in my life. It's meant that I'm more likely to complete those daily habits that I want to do and I know will be good for me in the long term. It means that I can de-stress because I know I have my assignments and my videos under control. It means that I'm just more intentional with the way I spend my time on a day-to-day basis. Ultimately, I think scheduling is something that everyone should try and is part of my TCA system, which you can hear about in this video here.